from a driver level, but from a relationship level, rejection rate in January and February was 40% on refrigerated truckload
At your
timbers.
at your place?
No, no, that's over the industry.
Okay.
Okay, at a 40% rejection rate, that in itself tells me that the industry is not acting as shippers of choice or receivers of choice or brokers of choice, right? I
Yes.
mean, it's plain to see either we're out of touch with what the revenue is requiring and what the market demand is, or we're out of touch with the job that we're asking to do and what it costs and what the industry costs. Both of you are running fleets. I know that the operating costs have skyrocketed in the past 2 years. So, remember, we all remember the dollar a mile days.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and then it was $2 a mile.
Well, didn't we see that mid-pandemic after the rush for product and service that we saw a crash on, I mean, I was seeing 80 cent, dollar mile freight out there. And I was just, I was sorry for everybody that was involved in it. Um,
I didn't
but
see any, thank goodness.
well, there was a lot, it was happening. And, with our fleet, if we get somewhere and we don't have our own POs to pick up, we haul for hire. And we had a couple of instances out there where, almost overnight, it was probably over a week, that running into the same territory we were coming out strong a week prior, and then, seeing maybe a 50% cost decrease or price decrease the following week. It was short term, but it existed.
Did you continue to haul for those people?
No,
Yeah, there you go. It's the right
no,
answer.
no.
Right. So, and if we drive the market down to an unsustainable number, because we need to from an accounting perspective, then we're no longer a shipper of choice. We're no longer what we want to be, because getting the trucks in and out, but not building the relationship with your carrier base that sustains these market ebbs and flows is counterproductive.
Yeah, John, when you talk about rate escalation through cost increases, these are negotiations that have to happen.
Yep.
And we saw those in 17, 18. Well, we see them all the time. And we see them go up and we see them go down. And, again, it's a negotiation for more money on the carrier's side. But on the other side of that, should the market, go back to where it was, the expectation is that those rates will equalize. It's that's what partnerships are all about. And we have great carriers that have been with us for years and years and years, and that's the way that we interact.
Well, and I think that that's the right way to interact. I think what I'm saying and what I'm looking for from both of you is to confirm that you avoid the extremes with each other.
Yeah.
You avoid the extremes. If the market turns in a negative way, the rates need to come down. Do they come down to a unsustainable number when you never saw the unsustainable high number? No, you avoid that and you work in the middle and you say, okay, we both know that the market softened. We know that demand is down, rates are down. Where is the right number to be at, and have an open conversation and keep the relationship, not not do things based off of revenue generation only. And that's why I picked both of you. I think you guys both understand the value proposition of relationship and service, and what you're getting for it. But how do you quantify that when you bid, or you do things that you bring outside people in? How do you quantify the value for your carriers and your assets and your non-asset based people? How do you quantify that value when there are third party people in there that aren't close to it? Slate, you had some. I think, didn't you mention you had some consultants in?
We did. We started in 2020 in October, and we ran 16 weeks. We really kind of thought that our analysis would take us into 4. And as we began to peel it back, and it really went kind of viral internally on all things logistics and transportation, it ended up being 16 weeks. It was 44-page final finished good that we submitted to our leadership team and, of course, people inside the department. And I still have a copy of it sitting on my desk right here. It's kind of a Bible for our growth. The elements of the logistics and transportation plan that we focus on, through the goal process, whether they be personal or organizational, every day. For us, it was extremely valuable. It helped to realign our priorities, to control some costs, to identify, true needs for the department and the organization. Because after all, once the department gets it, the organization has it. And the feedback from board of directors, leadership team, anybody who got a chance to participate in it, whether they approved the 5-year plan, has been, received positively, and it was a phenomenal piece of work. I was so thrilled to be a part of it. It was very trying. It was difficult. It was long hours. Oh, hey, that's the transportation business, right? But the end result was what we thought it would be, with nuances in it too. I would recommend this for manufacturers with carrier fleets. For us, it was great. But again, our consultant was one guy who had grown up in the trucking industry, and he drove, he managed, he VP'd, and he worked in other consulting firms. I would gladly make a recommendation, because it was great for Litehouse. It was great for me.
Now, can you share some more information? Because, when you have somebody come in to question what you're doing and to oversee the decision making, what was your feedback from him, Slate?
Well, he really didn't say much the first couple of weeks, as he was, vetting me and my staff. After a couple of weeks, he started to open up and say, I think that probably the first thing that I felt like was a real compliment was that he understood our philosophy and distribution, and agreed with what we were doing, because our plan fit so well for both customer and facility uptime. And he thought it was a great balance for the limited amount of equipment that we had, and staff, et cetera. Inside of that report came requests or suggestions for fleet expansion, staff expansion, and we received sign off on all of it, and we've since done that. We've completed that since he was here. So we still communicate frequently. We actually had him working on a project with us here over the last few weeks. So, again, it's 44 pages. There are things in there that I can share. I could probably find a few things that you might find interesting in that report.
Well, I don't want you to share anything that would, that is proprietary.
Well, I just have to be cautious, because we all think when we're running fleets and distribution operations, that we have that certain something that other people don't. So, we're not. And in fact, this is probably the only thing I've ever done in the way of circulating information that's going to actually reach the public in the entire 18 years that I've been here, because I do consider some of our practices to be, our little secret. so much data. I learned a tremendous amount. And, if anybody's ever questioning the value of their fleet inside of an organization similar to ours, you'll find that in that type of a console. So it was great.
Very good. Now, Scott, what would you say you feel that HP does really well in being a shipper of choice and a partner of choice?
It's funny, John. I actually thought we were pretty good at it, but we have a ways to go. We talked about getting people in and out, treating people with respect, communication. I think the pandemic has brought a new light on the fact that we're probably not as good as we think we are. And again, we have to look at how we schedule, how we treat people, how we communicate to help everybody be efficient, which efficiency automatically drives cost control and cost reduction.
Correct.
So if we're part of the problem, that whether it's you as a broker, or if it's really somebody that we're dealing with an asset based, if we're not communicating and making sure that we are part of the solution, not the problem, then we have a ways to go. I mean, we're trying to benchmark all the stuff that everybody does, right? You want to know what your tender rejections are. You want to know what you went on spot market versus what was the contract. But you also know that we're all sitting in a hotbed and, we got to have the trucks, right? Slate, you're in the same position I am, not delivering the product on time, whether it's because of an OTIF score or because product, you're out of stock. So I would say to you, we realize that we have to treat carriers better and have better relationships, whether it's asset-based or broker, simply from the way of communication. I think we do pay fairly or are agreeable to why rates had to go up and that you have to ride that wave. But then you also kind of turn around and say, but there's got to be an element or a benchmark or a matrix that says, if I'm picking on you, John, at Triple T, all right, you had to have more money because you got to get the truck.
Right.
But then you got to be on time. You got to have a good tender acceptance. Mm-hmm. And all those things got to go in line with it, not just the fact that, well, I'm paying you a lot more money, but the service didn't go with that money. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think it's hand in hand that if we want to communicate well and we want to have a relationship with our carriers, there's got to be an equal value to, I'll pay you to get the truck, but I got to get a little bit better service level than I was getting before with tender rejections, show up on time, all those kind of things. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we have to get better at it.
Well, I think you answered some parts of it. I think everybody thought they were doing pretty good. And
until people just chased money. And I'm not saying that anybody did anything wrong, but that's really what happened. We woke up one day and said, listen, they're chasing money, and you kind of can't blame them.
Well,
right?
When you understand the ratio of equipment versus freight, they've got the ball. And even though I think, in the past week we've seen some relief and capacity in some areas throughout the country in the past week, one storm, everybody's scared. Nobody's going to be, rates aren't plummeting. I think we're getting more competitive and able to get more competitive. But I'm looking at this not as more so as an individual. I think as an industry perspective. I'm fortunate. I do provide great service. That's not negotiable. Doesn't matter what the freight rate is. The service has to be there. Doesn't matter if it's 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 21. Doesn't matter if trucks are loose or trucks are tight. When trucks are loose and capacity is loose, service is taken for granted.
Yeah.
When it's tight, then everybody wants to and should have metrics in place to make sure they're getting what they're paying for. Right? I mean, you have to give what you...
Yep.
If you pay me to do a job and for something to be here on X, Y, and Z 98 or 99% of the time, then I have to give that to you. Or I can't send you an invoice.
Yeah.
That's good business. What we're really talking about it, and the reason why I have you guys on here is to really understand and peel that onion back and understand what worked 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago is not going to work moving forward.
Yeah.
Scott just said something about partnerships. And this is so important with your core carriers, if you want to call them that. We just refer to them as our guys, and everybody has a bad day. There might be a situation where they need you to have their back, whether it's, they are running late, they don't feel well, they got COVID, their trailer's broken down. So they don't have a trailer to haul your load, but you've got trailers of your own that you can let them borrow for 1 week so they don't lose a round. And, these things are key in being that shipper of choice for a carrier, whether small or large. You've got to be able to reciprocate when it's necessary. I think it's really important in these types of partnerships, and that helps us a lot with our carriers because, hey, we're just people and we have issues.
Send an interchange agreement and go down the road, right?
Yeah.
Well, Slate, you said something that I think is very important that we should not lose track of, whether it's an asset-based or the broker community. If you have the right relationship, I'm depending on you, John, as a broker, to have a relationship with your core carriers, as Slate mentioned.
Correct.
So, and I think we've got ourselves into a situation today with drivers and equipment that I know for me personally in our company, I shouldn't speak for our company, but I'm going, say it, is I'll go out there and say, if I don't have room and we don't build the right facilities to handle drop equipment and work with asset-based and have relationships with the brokers to get enough drop equipment through the yard and have those round robins that you talked about, Slate, that are just the run that, that your core carrier, John, runs all the time and it's like clockwork. But if we've got drop equipment, then there can be a lot of failure or things that aren't quite on time when something doesn't come off the right cycle on time, or something got made 8 hours later than we thought it was going to. That if we can just load trailers and keep moving, then you can become a manufacturer of choice because people are getting it off your property in 20, 30 minutes. But where does the investment come in on the trailer? I'd be willing to say that our company would look at anything that somebody would want to look at to say, how do we build that drop trailer program, whether it's customer pickup or whether it's, working with asset-based or, that we have enough drop equipment to stay well ahead of that curve.
You bring up a great point. Now, for me personally, to answer this question, how do you do that when you go somewhere 16 times in 6 months?
But you know what, Jack, you're absolutely right, except, and Slate, I'll bet you'll agree with this number. You're like every decent company out there. 20% of your customers are driving 80% of your volume. So Correct. You don't have to do it with everybody, but you got to do it with a core, and John, better than anybody what my core is, right? Who the people is that we're going to do 100 loads a week to. And, it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So
and I've dropped equipment at your facilities. We've had drop equipment at your facilities, at all different facilities for long periods of time. We managed a drop yard 24 hours a day where, we were bringing inbound in and other people were bringing inbound in. And we were basically monitoring and managing and shuttle drivers to your facilities 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because if it didn't happen, production was stopping.
Yeah.
So, right. We've gone and gotten, everything from cardboard to bottles to pallets to you name it. and chased it and brought them across the country with teams, et cetera, so that we didn't lose product. Those are just what you're supposed to do out of appreciation for your partnership. I mean, you guys have to know that we're going to be the ones you can count on to make that happen. And we got to know that you're the ones that are going to take care of us. And that, so with this conversation, a partnership is an arrangement where parties agree to cooperate to advance mutual interests. That is a partnership. A collaboration, Slate, you used that word earlier, is the process of two or more people or entities and organizations working together to achieve a goal. Now, I don't think it's possible for us to be partners and not be great at collaborating.
Yeah.
I don't think we can't be 98, 99% on time for 18, 20 years together and not be great at collaborating.
No.
You can't. It's not possible. You have to. So, my last trivia question for this, guys. Slate, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want any of your drivers to see this video. Okay? If a solo driver sits at a shipper or a receiver for 5 hours, how much time does he have left on his driving shift? He or she. A is 8, B is 9, C is 11, or D is none of the above.
9.
I'll agree.
You'll agree. So you guys understand that there's 14 hours in a day in a shift that a driver can drive, right? So if he's sitting for 5, you've got 9. Unfortunately, it's an impossible.
Oh, the half.
So wait, okay? The fun part of this is it depends on where your driver came from. It depends on how many hours he's already on duty in his shift. And also how long his previous break was, whether he had a 5 or a 10-hour break or a 34-hour restart.
So now we know there's trick questions.
Well, they shouldn't be trick questions for you, Slade. Especially, I'm gonna give Scott some leeway. So I think what we're really trying to dive into in the podcast here is understanding. Now everyone wants to be a shipper of choice. Now I think that capacity's tight. It's now a focus.
Talk is cheap.
Right.
You got to be able to back it up.
Correct.
And when you have a steady track record of efficiency, and you have maybe a couple of indiscretions or situations that affect a driver that's familiar with your operation a couple of times, it's tolerable, but a driver or a carrier would tell you, well, we don't really want to sit any longer than the 10 hours we're required to.
Right.
You're generating uptime. So you have to remember that your decisions for your business affect your partners that you're collaborating with.
Right. So if you sit at your facility, if I come to your facility and I sit and let's say I started fresh, okay, with a fresh clock, and I drive to your facility and I sit for 10 hours and you load me and you say, hey, I need this to go 400 miles by tomorrow morning or 500 miles by tomorrow morning. Can't happen.
No.
You already shot me in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I spent all my time.
Thanks for the help.
Right. Now,
if
if you call me at 8 a.m. and say, hey, don't come in here at 10 a.m., don't start your shift, push it off because we're having problems.
Or if you want to come in here and drop your trailer and come back later, fine.
You can't. You turn the key, you start the clock.
Well, it depends on the timing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It depends. If you're already on shift and you're already rolling, or you've already started, or you've already delivered.
No, that gets back to communication, as simple as that sounds. You need to tell them about these things. They need to be prepared.
Right.
It's just like getting volunteered to help somebody move. You're just volunteering, to sit for 8 hours.
I have a rule with that, Slate. I'll move boxes and furniture, but I don't unpack or pack anything. Just so you know. Scott, I'm not unpacking. I'm not packing. I'll move boxes and I'll move furniture. We're going to get it done. We're going to get in, get out, and then I got to go. So
Yeah. When it comes to stocking spaces or shelves, I'm out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, doilies on end tables. That's not me. So I think what we're getting to and what we're all talking about is very important to our industry, and very important for us to say, hey, are we doing the right job? How do we do it? If you're a shipper, is it having extra dock doors and have an express door, or have a door or two that are not on schedule? That when you have things that back up or you have problems, you can overflow into and get caught back up. If you're a receiver, which we don't happen to have any of those present on this call, we'll have to invite some sometime.
I can provide you one.
Oh, I think we're all thinking of the same ones. So, if you're not operating this way and you're running your warehouse to a 90 plus efficiency rate, then you're probably not going to be a shipper of choice.
You won't be.
You won't be, or you can't be in manufacture. I don't think it's possible. So we all want to be. What does it look like? What does our relationship look like? How do we continually grow and partner closer, collaborate better? I think what we have to do in our industry more than anything is actually understand the business model of our partners, or who we choose to partner with. I don't think that if I'm a shipper that I'm going to be successful not knowing what the business model of my transportation partners are, and what it is, and that they live by it. And you have you have to peel the onion back now. You have to understand how they're moving your freight. And then for us, we have to understand from the shipper, what is it that they're looking for and why? How do we help them be more successful? How do we help the shippers avoid the extremes in the market? So, when you have a 16 or a 10 or 12 shipments in 6 months, you can ask for a contract rate for that. That's a spot shipment. It's not, there's no consistency to it. So it's going to be a different driver every week. If you're shipping multi-stop freight, you're going to have a different schedule or different stops being put together every week. Contracting that is very, very, very difficult. And when you submit it and you price for it, how do you accurately convey what it is that you're actually trying to price?
Well, I know that I would find it difficult to be in a position with, a contracted carrier that has been performing a service for X amount of pricing without any addendums for escalation, when that person can go out and haul a load for $2 more a mile, hypothetically. I don't know that even exists, anymore. And it might with, large carriers, both dry and refrigerated. But if you could find a carrier that's going to operate at 30 or 40% less than market because you signed a contract for a year, I just don't. I know how that relationship would end up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have to be able to adjust.
I agree. I think there has to be an adjust, and I think that has to be part of the equation. From your perspective, Slate, and just ask you a question: are you signing or requiring 12-month pricing from anyone?
No.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's only because the market is so volatile. So, with a large number of our carriers, it can vary, the rate can vary a few cents or maybe a little bit more from week to week. So it always moves a little bit. I wouldn't call it a overexposure to the spot market either. When you're operating inside what your normal, outbound capacity is for the week.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think what we're seeing across the board with everybody is 90-day pricing, and review it and communicate. And when you need to move, you move. And when you don't need to move, you don't. And you stay where your consistencies are, and you try and take care of everybody equally. And I think that that's the recipe for success moving forward and avoiding the spot market.
Yeah.
I would agree, John.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you very much. I've definitely appreciated you sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your personal experiences with us, and look forward to having you on in the future. Anybody have any questions?
I want to say I enjoyed it very much, and I really appreciated Scott's insight. John, yours as well. Meeting Scott, John, you and I have known each other for a long time, so
Yeah.
I kind of knew what I was going to get there. But
Yeah, no, it same for me. I mean, I think it went very well. I appreciate your guys' time. Slate is nice to meet you. It's nice to talk to other people.
No.
We do the same thing, and it's the same problem. So,
And the value of understanding that there are other shippers out there that are doing other things can bring both of you an intrinsic value, and you can ask questions, and it's all for the better of everybody. And that's the reason why we're doing this. Scott will tell you, Slate, what you see is what you get. You may not like it all the time, but the service is going to be great. The price is going to be as fair as I can get it. When the chips are down and he needs help, I'm always the one that steps up first, or the one that is the most reliable, or tries to be the most reliable and the most consistent. And Scott, vice versa, Slate will tell you that we get along because we're both very honest people, and we both have been doing this a long time, and we get it, and we know that it all works out in the end.
yeah,
that's a great point. You know, historically, the transportation industry hasn't been big on integrity, and over the last
No.
so we've really seen a change in that and how people, behave towards each other. It's certainly it's a welcome sight to see.
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to get closer with our relationships at some level. I mean, I think for us it's pretty consistent. Scott can tell you most everything, that we're going to do or how we're going to do it, I think, for the most part. And he knows that 80% of our freight is handled by the top 20% of our carriers. We can be as successful as he sets us up to be, and we can pull some things out of our hat when he needs us to, and we got him, and vice versa. The same thing for you, Slate. So I think it's a good thing. And
Appreciate that.
Thank you for participating.
My pleasure.
John, thanks for having us.
I'd like to have the opportunity to reserve the right to call you guys back on future episodes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Would love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Well, thank you, guys.
See ya.
Have a great night, guys. Thanks.
Take care.